Hey everyone, welcome to the Canada Truth Channel, where Canada, the illusion of freedom and system of control is exposed. Today's video is called Canada, a country based on deliberate deception and fraud. What do I mean by that? Well, to kick things off, you can see we're on the justice.ca website and we're viewing the Constitution Act 1867, formerly known as the British North America Act 1867. So the name was changed by Pierre Elliott Trudeau and Queen Elizabeth II in 1982 through the Canada Act scheme. We'll get into that a little bit more in depth as we go along. I've covered it before. I'll cover it again in future videos. So, what do I mean by deliberate deception and fraud? Changing the name from the British North America Act 1867 to the Constitution Act 1867 does not in any way, shape, or form make it a constitution. It never was a constitution. It never will be a constitution. That is deliberate deception and fraud. It has always been and always will be a private act of the British Imperial Parliament. That being said, the Canada Act scheme, changing the name from the British North America Act to the Constitution Act, once again, does not make it a constitution. I have a Chevy, and if I call my Chevy a Ford, and I write it down on a piece of paper, and I go get the Queen of England, the Pope, the ghost of John Wayne, to sign that piece of paper saying my Chevy is a Ford, that does not make my Chevy a Ford. It's still a Chevy. There you go. Okay. So, the British North America Act, the Constitution Act 1867, did not federally unite the provinces. It wasn't the Confederation of Canada. All it did was unite 4 British colonies into one British colony. That British colony was a British possession ruled by a Governor-General and central and local legislatures established to aid and assist the Governor-General in governing the British possession, Canada, on behalf of Queen Victoria. The British North America Act 1867 did not create a federal government. It created a central legislature and local legislatures to aid and assist the Governor-General and Lieutenant Governors in governing Canada, a British possession, on behalf of Queen Victoria. The Parliament of Canada did not become a federal government or the Government of Canada. It became the central legislature of a united British colony. That's it. Okay? So, once again, I'll ask that question. Where does Justin Trudeau and the Parliament of Canada claim to derive their authority to govern over the people and land of Canada? All right. All you lawyers out there, I absolutely appreciate all of the good lawyers out there fighting the good fight, bringing constitutional challenges and other challenges against the government of Canada. But I'm going to hopefully show you the first question you should be asking is prove your authority and jurisdiction over the people of Canada. And of course, they're going to come straight to the Constitution Act 1867. Well, before we get any deeper into this, let's look at what the British Imperial Parliament and Queen Victoria had to say through the Interpretation Act of 1889. Now keep in mind, the British North America Act 1867 had been enacted for 22 years when the Interpretation Act came out. And for some reason, despite all the shenanigans that went on with the preamble and certified copy and all that stuff, which I've already covered in previous videos, for some reason, 22 years after the enactment of the BNA 1867, the British Imperial Parliament and Queen Victoria decided some clarification was necessary. Maybe to put the Canadians, the independence-craving Canadians, back in their place. Anyhow, here we have the Interpretation Act 1889. I will say that the British North America Act 1867 created the Governor General, the central legislature, and local legislatures. And in 1889, Canada was the only British Dominion that had both a central legislature and local legislatures. So they were created through the BNA 1867, and once again, Canada was the only country at the time that the Interpretation Act was enacted in 1889. So here we go. We're only concerned with, Section 18. Excuse me. So, Section 18. Damn it. In this act, and every act passed after the commencement of this act, the following expressions shall, unless the contrary intention appears, have the meanings hereby respectively assigned to them, namely. And this Section 18 is geographical and colonial. Subsection 2. The expression British possession shall mean any part of Her Majesty's dominions, exclusive of the United Kingdom, and where parts of such dominions are under both a central and local legislature, all parts under the central legislature shall, for the purposes of this definition, be deemed to be one British possession. Subsection 3. The expression colony shall mean any part of Her Majesty's dominions, exclusive of the British Islands and of British India, and where the parts of such dominions are under both a central and local legislature, all parts under the central legislature shall, for the purpose of this definition, be deemed to be one colony. Moving right along. Subsection 6. The expression governor shall, as respects Canada and India, mean the Governor General and include any person for the time being has the powers of the Governor General, and as respects any other British possession shall include the officer for the time being administering the government of that possession. The expression colonial legislature and the expression legislature, when used with reference to a British possession, shall respectively mean the authority other than the Imperial Parliament, or Her Majesty the Queen in Council, competent to make laws for a British possession, meaning the Governor General, or officer for the time being, meaning the Prime Minister and the central legislature. So the difference between federally united and a united colony: to be federally united and to adopt a federal constitution, all the member states to begin with have to be sovereign nations. Sovereign nations come together and a federal union is formed under a federal constitution which is ratified by the people. Does this seem like a constitution to you? And it seems pretty clear by the Interpretation Act 1889 that the Imperial Parliament and Queen Victoria wanted to be very clear: Canada is a British possession and it's one colony. It's not a federally united country with a constitution. It is a British possession and it's a united colony. Okay, now back to the Constitution Act 1867. Geez, it just kills me even to say those words. For those of you that haven't identified, there is something very important in the construction of acts and statutes. And I'm just going to go ahead and pop open this endnote under number 1. While we're waiting, I would ask you to take note that subsection 2 was repealed, and I'm just going to pop open that endnote as well. And as we know, this act may be cited as the Constitution Act 1867, where it was formerly known as the British North America Act, and changed by Queen Elizabeth II and Pierre Elliott Trudeau. Okay, so there's something very important missing. Let's see what it is. And we see that the enacting clause was repealed by the Statute Law Revision Act 1893. It read as follows: "Be it therefore enacted and declared by the Queen's most excellent Majesty, and by and with the advice and consent of the Lords Spiritual and Temporal and Commons in this present Parliament assembled, and by the authority of the same as follows." So the enacting clause was repealed in 1893. And we can see that clearly because there's no enacting clause. Now, I said make note of section 2 being repealed. And if we jump to that end note, section 2, repealed by the Statute Law Revision Act 1893, read as follows: "The provisions of this act referring to Her Majesty the Queen extend also to the heirs and successors of Her Majesty, Kings and Queens of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland." Repealed in 1893. Now, let me remind you, Queen Victoria died in 1901. And as of the enactment of the Statute Law Revisions Act of 1893, the provisions of the British North America Act referring to Her Majesty the Queen, Queen Victoria, no longer extended to her heirs and successors. Okay, so once again, I'll ask all you lawyers, all you people of Canada, all you elected officials, Justin Trudeau, Viva Free, Robert Barnes, Rocco Galati, who else? Ian Runkle, all of you guys, how do they get past these facts in law? And I would put forth this question: under what authority did Pierre Elliott Trudeau and Queen Elizabeth II come up with their Canada Act scheme. As we can see, Section 2 was repealed. And let's look at executive power. Declaration of executive power in the Queen. Well, that's Queen Victoria. And she died in 1901. And we now know that her executive power and authority no longer extended to her heirs and successors as of the enactment of the Statute Law Revision Act 1893. Continuing on. The executive government and authority of and over Canada is hereby declared to be vested in the Queen, Queen Victoria. Once again, I'll remind you, Queen Victoria died in 1901, and once again, I'll put that question out there to all of you. Where does Justin Trudeau and the Parliament of Canada claim to derive their authority to govern over the people and resources of Canada? I'd love to talk to lawyers about this. I've talked to lawyers, constitutional lawyers even, about this, and they seem stunned when I show them this. So all of you guys out there, Viva Free, let's talk about this. How do they get past these facts in law? Other than they are completely de facto government. Illegal and unlawful, but yet they exist. Only by the consent of the governed. And would you give your consent to be governed through deliberate deception and fraud? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If you like what I've shown you and want to learn more, stay tuned to the channel and please like and subscribe.